At exactly 2:43 a.m. in the Strait of Hormuz, a sharp tone cut through the combat information center of a U.S. aircraft carrier. On a glowing screen, a radar track changed color, then another, and another. Somewhere out in the black water, Iranian warships had shifted from shadowing the carrier to locking onto it. For a few long seconds, nobody spoke, because everyone in that room understood what that meant. This was no routine encounter anymore. This was the moment before something could go terribly wrong. The night over the Persian Gulf was moonless, heavy, and unnaturally still. The carrier strike group had been pushing east in tight formation, a floating fortress of steel and firepower, moving through one of the most dangerous waterways on Earth. At its center was the American carrier, its flight deck dimmed, its island lit only by red and amber combat lights. Around it, like armored wolves guarding a giant, moved guided missile destroyers and a cruiser, each one bristling with spy radars, vertical launch cells, close-in weapon systems, and layers of defensive missiles designed for exactly the kind of moment now unfolding. For hours, Iranian patrol craft had been visible only as intermittent contacts, fast, low, elusive. Some were likely IRGC Navy speedboats, skimming over the surface at high speed. Others appeared larger, possibly missile boats or frigates operating farther back, using the darkness and coastal clutter to complicate identification. That alone was not unusual. In those waters, shadowing was a message. Presence was a signal. But what the crew didn't realize was that the signal was about to become a test. The first indication came not from the naked eye, but from electronic support measures. A destroyer on the carrier's screen line picked up emissions consistent with fire control radar, not general search radar, not navigation, fire control. In naval terms, that was the difference between being watched and being aimed at. Within seconds, the contact report traveled through the strike group. Iranian vessels were no longer merely observing the Americans. They were painting them. And once a warship locks onto a carrier, the question is no longer whether tensions are rising. The question is how many seconds remain before someone misreads the next move. The carrier's command team reacted instantly. Radar operators tightened their picture. The tactical action officer ordered all contacts reclassified. Bridge lookouts scanned the darkness through night optics. On deck, ordnance crews moved with sudden urgency. In the hangar bay below, pilots were pulled toward ready rooms. Somewhere beneath the surface, far beyond what anyone on the Iranian ships could see, an American attack submarine adjusted course and slowed to listen. That was the hidden dimension of the crisis. Aircraft carriers are powerful, but they never sail alone. Every carrier is the center of a layered machine built for survival. Above it, airborne early warning aircraft extend the fleet's vision. Around it, destroyers hunt missiles and aircraft. Below it, submarines prowl in silence. And in a confrontation like this, the most dangerous weapon is often the one nobody has detected yet. At 2:47 a.m., the situation escalated again. One of the Iranian contacts accelerated. Then, two more. They broke formation and began closing from the port quarter. Their speed suggested fast attack craft, the kind designed to swarm, harass, and force reaction. On another axis, farther to the north, a larger surface contact held steady, but continued to illuminate intermittently. That mattered, because a single vessel locking on could be posturing. Multiple platforms coordinating at once suggested doctrine. Then something unexpected happened. The American carrier did not slow down. That might sound simple, but in narrow waters, movement is everything. A carrier does not have the freedom of open ocean maneuvering inside the strait. It is a massive ship operating in constrained lanes, near civilian traffic, under surveillance from shore-based missile batteries, drones, patrol aircraft, and coastal radars. Every turn carries meaning. Every hesitation can be read as weakness. So when the carrier maintained course and speed, it sent its own signal right back. We see you. We are not panicking, and we are not leaving. But the crew also knew calm posture and combat preparation are not opposites. They happen together. Within moments, escorts shifted formation. One destroyer moved wider to create more missile defense separation. Another tightened in, optimizing radar coverage and overlapping engagement zones. The carrier's defensive systems went to a higher state of readiness. Close-in weapon mounts were manned. Electronic warfare teams began studying the Iranian emissions in real time, building a pattern of frequencies, pulse intervals, and probable targeting modes. Above them, an E-2 Hawkeye was launched into the darkness, its twin turboprops ripping through the night as it climbed to build a wider radar picture over the Gulf. Minutes later, two F/A-18 Super Hornets followed, catapulted from the deck into black sky, their afterburners carving brief tunnels of orange fire over the sea. To anyone watching from the Iranian side, the message would have been unmistakable. The carrier they had locked onto was now generating air power. And that is where the psychology of naval confrontation becomes dangerous. Because every action taken for defense can be mistaken for preparation to strike. Every protective maneuver can appear offensive when viewed through fear. At 2:54 a.m., another alert flashed across the network. A coastal radar source on the Iranian shoreline had joined the picture. Then a second emitter came alive farther inland. Analysts aboard the cruiser believed at least one of them matched profiles associated with anti-ship missile queuing. Now the Americans were dealing with more than surface warships. The shoreline itself was entering the fight. This is what makes the Persian Gulf so uniquely volatile. It is not just a sea, it is a firing geometry. Warships, missile batteries, drones, helicopters, fast boats, and submarines all compress into a narrow space where decisions have to be made in seconds. A missile launched from shore can arrive shockingly fast. A swarm of boats can appear out of darkness with little warning. A targeting lock can be a bluff, or it can be the final step before launch. Nobody on either side gets much time to decide. Within seconds, everything changed again. The lead Iranian fast craft cut hard to starboard and reduced speed. Another kept coming. A third vanished briefly behind surface clutter, then reappeared closer than expected. One of the American destroyers trained sensors directly onto the formation. Warnings went out over bridge-to-bridge frequencies. The radio calls were clear, firm, and repeated. Alter course immediately. Maintain safe separation. You are approaching a U.S. naval vessel. But what happened next shocked everyone in the carrier group. The boats did not answer. Silence in a moment like that is its own weapon. Down below, in the combat center, officers weighed the options that no commander ever wants to face too early or too late. Fire warning shots, deploy helicopters, illuminate with targeting radar in return, launch armed fighters into visible intercept patterns, or wait 1 minute longer and risk losing the initiative. Every option carried consequence. Too soft, and the harassment could intensify. Too aggressive, and a standoff could become a shooting war before dawn. Then, the underwater report arrived. An American submarine operating ahead of the strike group had detected transient acoustic signatures to the northeast. Cavitation, machinery, low-speed screws, possibly a diesel-electric boat repositioning in shallow water. In that instant, the scenario widened again. If an Iranian Kilo-class submarine or smaller undersea platform was maneuvering nearby, the surface confrontation might be part of something larger. And that meant the carrier was not simply being challenged from one direction, it was being probed across multiple domains at once. This is the part most people never see when they imagine naval power. Not the missiles, not the explosions, the waiting, the compression. The knowledge that one wrong interpretation could unleash fighter jets, anti-ship missiles, torpedoes, and air defense interceptors in the same 5-minute window. At 3:01 a.m., the carrier air wing was fully awake. More pilots were strapped in. Additional Super Hornets were armed for maritime strike and combat air patrol. An MH-60R Seahawk lifted off to investigate the surface contacts, carrying sensors designed for both overwater surveillance and submarine hunting. On the escorts, standard missiles remained in their cells, but firing solutions were already being refined. Phalanx C IWS crews stared into thermal displays. CRAM systems stood ready. The entire group had moved into that invisible boundary where peace still existed, but war was already being rehearsed second by second. Then something even more unsettling occurred. The Iranian fire control signal strengthened. That detail mattered because radar illumination is not just electronic noise. It is intent translated into energy. The stronger, steadier, and more focused it becomes, the more clearly it suggests that a system is being prepared for actual engagement. Maybe a missile boat had switched to terminal targeting mode. Maybe a shore battery had received fresh coordinates. Or maybe the lock was deliberate theater, designed to provoke a visible American overreaction for cameras and propaganda. But the crew didn't know which. And in military operations, uncertainty is often more dangerous than hostility. At 3:04 a.m., the American response finally shifted. Not with a missile, not with gunfire, but with invisibility. The electronic warfare teams aboard the escorts began to work. To the human eye, nothing changed. The sea remained black. The ships still cut their wakes through the strait. But in the electromagnetic spectrum, the battle had begun. Signals were analyzed, spoofed, complicated. Decoys and deceptive emissions were prepared. Tracking quality was degraded where possible. The goal was not to announce force. It was to poison the enemy's confidence in what they were seeing. And it worked. The Iranian lock flickered, came back, broke again, reacquired, broke a second time. That was the turning point. Because a targeting solution is only as good as the continuity behind it. If the radar picture becomes unstable, if the ship's position is no longer clean, if decoys and jamming complicate the return, and hence, then the operator on the other end has a terrible problem. Fire now, and you may waste your shot or hit the wrong thing. Wait longer, and the moment may pass. In war at sea, hesitation can be the difference between a successful ambush and a strategic disaster. Then the fighters arrived overhead. The first pair of Super Hornets swept low enough to be heard from the Iranian decks before they were clearly seen, their engines rolling across the water like distant thunder. They did not attack. They did something almost more unnerving. They took station, calmly, deliberately. A visible sign that the carrier's reach extended far beyond the steel hull at the center of the formation. Above the Gulf now floated American eyes, American missiles, and American choices. And see, what the Iranian crews may not have known was that additional aircraft were orbiting farther back, and the submarine below had already repositioned to cover the most likely underwater approach lane. The carrier strike group had transformed from a vulnerable transit formation into a tightly compressed combat web. And suddenly, the Iranian boat slowed. Not all at once, not dramatically. Just enough for experienced watchstanders to notice. One peeled slightly away, another stopped gaining range. The larger contact to the north reduced the intensity of its emissions. The shore-based radar remained active, but the lock quality appeared weaker. A few minutes earlier, the confrontation had seemed to be racing toward the edge. Now it hovered there, unstable, but no longer accelerating. Then, after nearly half an hour of tension, radio traffic finally came back. A clipped transmission, broken English, a warning about territorial waters, a demand to identify intentions. It was late, it was performative, but it was also a lifeline. Because the moment words return, missiles are no longer the only language available. The American response was immediate and measured. International transit, routine operations, no hostile intent, maintaining course. The phrases were carefully chosen. They always are. Naval communication in moments like this is a strange mixture of law, psychology, and deterrence. You try to sound calm while making clear that any attack will be answered with overwhelming force. For another 10 minutes, the two sides held their positions inside the darkness, separated by distance, doctrine, and a very thin line of restraint. And the fast attack craft lingered at the edge of safe approach. The larger Iranian vessel continued to shadow but no longer pressed aggressively. Overhead, the fighters remained. Beneath the water, the submarine remained unheard. And on the American carrier, nobody relaxed. Because this is the truth of near war. The danger does not disappear when the shooting doesn't start. Sometimes it becomes more haunting. At 3:19 a.m., the lock was gone. Just like that. No dramatic surrender, no explosion, no cinematic final shot. One by one, the targeting emissions dropped off the American displays. The boats turned wider. The shoreline radars returned to less threatening patterns. The carrier strike group kept moving, its wake stretching behind it like a scar across black water. The crisis had lasted less than 40 minutes. But what happened in those 40 minutes was enough to remind everyone on both sides what modern naval brinkmanship really means. Because this was never just about a radar lock, it was about calculation. Iran showing it could threaten a symbol of American power in one of the world's most strategic choke points. The United States showing that a carrier cannot be intimidated by illumination alone, and that beneath every visible deck and mast lies an invisible network of submarines, fighters, sensors, and missile defenses ready to answer the first real shot. Both sides pushed forward. Both sides stopped just short. And that is why the episode mattered. To the outside world, it may have looked like nothing happened. But inside the carrier, sailors would remember the exact tone of that first alarm. They would remember the way the room went quiet when the contacts changed color. They would remember how long a single minute can feel when a warship is locked onto, and nobody yet knows whether the next flash on the screen is going to be a radar return or a missile launch. And that may be the most unsettling part of all. The most dangerous moments in modern warfare are not always the ones history books describe as battles. Sometimes they are the ones that end before the first shot. When destroyers track targets, they never engage. When submarines stalk adversaries that never know they were there. And when fighter jets circle over a sea so tense that a radio transmission can matter as much as a torpedo. That night in the Strait of Hormuz, the world came closer to open conflict than most people will ever realize. Iranian warships locked onto a U.S. carrier. American forces prepared for the possibility that the next few seconds could ignite the entire Gulf. Then something happened that rarely gets attention because it leaves no wreckage behind. Training held. Nerves held. And for one more night, deterrence was stronger than impulse. But the question that lingers is the one no admiral, no sailor, and no government can ever answer with certainty. What happens next time? If the lock doesn't break?